become kind of skeptical about the Canadian Broadcasting Centre, the CBC, the formal CBC, and that's a public institution, right? And so, you know, we talk about like, well, what's wealth, right? Wealth can be dollars in your pocket, but I'd say wealth could be collectively held, you know, like I'd say Canadians with public health care are rich, they're wealthy, but they don't, you know, it's not expressed in dollars, right? And likewise, we would argue, and this isn't ideology free, and that's what I'm going to come to in a way, like that public broadcasting makes us all wealthy, even though we don't get money, dollars in our pocket for it. In fact, we give money for it, right? But we kind of have a lot of respect for public broadcasting for one reason, is that it's kind of outside of the parameters of the market, right? So it's not serving private interests. It's serving something else. It's something alternative to the privatized model that we've seen sort of balloon and mushroom since the end of the Cold War. And so we kind of have been discussing like how could we, in a way, erect this kind of fortress in case it was down the line the case that the Canadian Broadcasting Centre was privatised. And you know, the BBC in England too, people are suspecting that there's there's a big lobby of corporations, for example, like people like CanWest Global are a big media conglomerate who are like the National Post and so on, who clearly despise public broadcasting because it's the kind of antithesis for everything they stand for, right? And so that this kind of initiative, in a way, is not only to show our contempt or to offer a critique, or is kind of implicitly a critique of the current CBC, but it's also in a way to say, well, we'll do our own public broadcasting. And you know, people, it has obviously there's implicit ideologies to it, there's an agenda in a way, but you know, what it's going to be is kind of up to all its members. And so we've been discussing, well, how do you create a cooperative that isn't going to marginalise people? That if people want to have extreme right-wing views, extreme left-wing views, want to be a capitalist or a communist or a whatever, an anarchist, they could be that, right? A truther or whatever, right? You could be within this, which I would argue you can't be with the current CBC, right? Because you know, when you watch that, you know, we don't see Tony Hall talking about the Fed on CBC, right? But I see most people come out of this class. I mean, I've been going in this class for about 3 years now, and you know, I see people coming out often who say, well, like, wow, this class like changed my life. Like one time, one of Tony's colleagues came and spoke, and a girl actually said, like, this changed my life from being in this class. And I think like a lot of these things are really elementary in a way. That if we're going to survive in society, we need to know these things, right? The things that we'll learn in this class, but it doesn't resonate in the mainstream media, and the question then becomes why, right? And this would be an attempt to kind of counter that. And so this blog basically, I went and met with the people in CRDC in the library, and I was kind of trying to find like a good template that could be a cooperative, that could be inclusive, right? And they sent me to ning.com. And what ning.com, and I basically made this in the last couple of days, in a way it's like Facebook, because you invite people to become members, right? And if you go on, like, for example, the National Post or like the CBC websites, in a way they kind of run with the same format. So like the journalist Jonathan Kay, who's a journalist for like the National Post, he'll have his like own blog within the National Post, and then the editors will kind of manipulate the articles they like of his to come to the surface, right? And in a way this kind of acts like that. So we'd invite our journalists, you know, who would be colleagues of Tony's, friends we have around the world, and preferably students too, right, in this class, to be members of this, and to basically post things just as you might on your Facebook, but you know, more relevant to the curriculum in a way. And so you know, obviously there's participation in this class, right? Or you know, from my experience, like a lot of people are kind of shy about talking in class, right? But that would be a way of, if you're contributing onto this, right, it shows you're kind of interested and so on. And I just thought it, but it's my view, like me and Tony were kind of discussing this, wondering where it's going to go, whether people will sort of be conducive to this idea. But I thought it was kind of nice, because in a way people have their own personal page, right? So when it comes to thinking like, you know, how's the professor going to see what I'm doing? You know, I don't want to be that kind of conflated with the greater body of the students. But you have your own page, but then when it gets posted, it kind of resonates to the surface. And so like whenever there's a new post of videos, for example, this is like the home page. So whenever there's a new post, the latest thing appears on our homepage. So to someone surfing the web, it looks like a kind of sophisticated website in a way, because there's always going to be fresh content going up all the time. And And yeah, and so this is kind of what this is what I think is kind of the perfect, it's really conducive to cooperative broadcasting, that theme that we're trying to kind of create and invent. And so yeah, one idea would be that I, as the kind of editor of this, would email you all and invite you to be a journalist on this cooperative broadcasting, and obviously that no one's forced to do that. There is clearly an agenda here. You might think the current CBC is perfect, and that's fine. And you could even, we'd encourage you to perhaps critique our agenda. Like, why do you think perhaps that's a bad idea or a good idea or biased or wrong, etc. And so, so one idea we've kind of posited is that usually the blog in this class I'd come towards the end of the semester and show everyone, like, well, this is blogger.com, this is wordpress.com, this is how you make a blog. And people will go off and just make something about anything they're interested in. And actually, it's a really fascinating couple of days. Usually it's 2 classes, or if it's a smaller group, 1 class, and people will come up and present. And we've had people talking about like computer games, like they're gamers, or people are interested in like green issues. Like one girl last semester did a really great presentation on green issues and so on. And so students pretty much tell us about them, right? And when you're surfing the internet, like, I think a lot of people do get in this kind of echo chamber, and we are all kind of nerds in a way about something, right? Like, everyone in a way is a geek about something in life, like whatever they're interested in. And so how do we, keep that kind of individualism and subjectivity that we've experienced with previous like student presentations and student blogs, but then bring it together as to kind of reflect it and express it through this template? And that's kind of what we're working on at the moment. And so what we've kind of been discussing is the idea, and if people would be conducive to it, to becoming like a member, if I invited you to do this. And so, for example, like I can sign in here. I'll show you what it, so when I say, so each person would have like this, and then sign in. So once I've signed in, right, I can go to like my page, and then basically it's very simple to use. It's like you have your latest activity, and then you can add photos, you can add videos, and then you have your blog that you write. So if I wanted, for example, to like add a video, it's very simple. Like so I wanted to add it from YouTube. I just click down here. It would just ask me to literally copy and paste the. So say for example I wanted to this. Which we were watching earlier, I just copy that, paste it into there, and click like add a video, and then so I said to anyone, so to members of the public. So in a way you could say just to my friends if you wanted to keep it more kind of esoteric, or to yourself. And then and so then it appears on my page under the section my videos, and I can go to my page and it appears there. But then, because it's a cooperative, right, when we go to home, it's also now showing the world, it's showing our fellow students, etc., that what we've done this week or today. And I found that when I came out of this class, I built a friendship with Tony, and I just often am finding something, and I think he'll be interested, I'll just fire it off in a link, right? And I almost wish, well, why can't I be bringing that to the surface for like everybody, right? Why does it just have to be to like a few people who I add on my email? And so this, I think, is the kind of mechanism to do that, right? Which I really, I discovered this like yesterday, and it's really got me quite excited. I think it's, exactly what we're looking for. And so I can show you. So I made some kind of categories last night. So we're calling it kind of like our own CBC, or like our CBC, like a people's CBC, right? And people can agree or disagree with that as a concept, but that's what we're kind of framing it as. And hoping that the journalists in the actual CBC, who we feel are kind of selling out, and we suspect, of course, if you are like private media conglomerates, and your end goal was to see the public broadcasting eradicated and extinguished and privatized, you'd infiltrate, right? You'd send people there to represent your interest, to kind of sabotage public broadcasting. We've seen so many things privatized in the last 20 years.